This is Mike Putnam with another episode of Mike Drop. Today I have Frank Del Rio from Your Belinda. Frank, how are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. How are you?
So, Frank, let me ask you, how long have you been in real estate?
5 years.
25 years, a
Yeah.
quarter of a century. That's a
Yeah,
long
man.
time.
Long time. Started when I was 19. I was a baby.
So, tell me, when you think back, what made you get into real estate 25 years ago?
Oh, that was simple, man. The realtor who was helping me and my mom buy a house, he was just an amazing dude. Had 5 different cars he picked us up in. He had the gold Rolex. He had the chains. I mean, I was an impressionable kid, man, and this guy was just it. And he was a Hispanic dude. I'd never seen Hispanic dudes like this, right? So I was just like, what does this guy do? And little by little, each time he took us out, we went out 4 times. I'm sorry, 6 times. By the fourth time, I felt the confidence to ask him, how do you do this? You must have a big degree or something along those lines. And he told me what to do. And funny story is, I had actually already taken the class he told me to take because I got a football scholarship. And the football players used to take real estate principles because they passed all the ball players. Take real estate principles as a local college, then you get applied for the state test, right? This is before the internet. I said, oh, well, I already took that. And he was like, well, then just go get a crash course and you go take the test. And the rest is history.
So, what was your first year like? Because obviously, every agent has a different experience of their first year of real estate. What was that like for you?
First 2 years were horrible because there was no tutelage back then. And this is back when real estate was mean. The other agents, they didn't let you in and like, oh my God, yes, let's collaborate. They put their foot on your throat and say, get the hell out of my office. So it was a different time, but it took about a good 2 years until I did my first deal.
Wow.
But I was a worker, so I was working 3 jobs and trying to learn real estate. But the 3 jobs paid my bills and stuff. It took 2 years to do my first deal. Then once I did my first deal, I was hooked. Not on the money. I was hooked because of how I helped those clients. I had a mentor, but how I helped those clients and how grateful they were because we sold their home and then we helped them find a home. Like that feeling, I had never felt that before. So that feeling of helping others, I was hooked. I wanted more, right? It wasn't the money because back then that commission was only like, I want to say it was like $700 because I had to split it with someone. And that was on a really big split.
So when you went into real estate, what did you think the most successful real estate agents do? Because it's always funny when you see new agents, what they think you do, because you've seen $1 million TV and all these different things versus what successful agents do. So when you got in those first 2 years, what did you think you had to do versus what you now know what you have to do?
I, I thought I had to learn a lot more intellectually.
Yeah.
And what I experienced was there was 2 forms of knowledge, right? Intellectual knowledge that we get from reading, from studying, from books, and then experiential knowledge. And so I thought it was a lot of book smart stuff. Turns out it was all experience. And so I did the first 2 years of thinking I had to be a smart up here, not understanding I had to go through the motions and a lot of the failure and rejection to get better and then put deals together. So today I would say it's the experience part, but everyone is a little bit confused because of these mediums like YouTube and online. They think they can go learn and get all this stuff. It's still the same. It's still the same concept. You're just reading. You're not reading from a book. You're getting from a screen, but you got to go get the experience out there in the marketplace.
So how did you deal with the rejection? Because one of the biggest things that stops real estate agents from ever being successful is they never get past the rejection part. How were you able to absorb that the first couple of years, not selling a house, and then finally your second year doing it? What is that like every single day, asking people to buy and sell it? Everyone saying no.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? What I didn't know then, that I realized and experienced later on in life, was that apparently I was built for rejection all my life. I've been rejected. I was always the fat kid. I was always the last one. I wasn't the most handsomest, right? I always got told no. I grew up with a single mom. She was tough as nails, so she was constantly, giving me rejection. But what took place was it was building my character and the person that I became. So when time for real estate came, the rejection did not penetrate me as hard because I had such a thick skin and an armor that it was more of a, they don't want to do nothing. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one didn't work. Let's go to the next one. And then I was dumb enough intellectually to not question when my mentor or my, leaders told me, go out and talk to 100 people. And I would do that. And I said, nobody said yes. Okay, now go out and talk to another 100 people and tell them this. Right. And so, like, little by little, I never questioned I'm doing something wrong. I just apparently I got to go through a lot of rejection to get there. Once I connected those dots, it was game over.
Right. So, how many years did it take you to really learn the scripts, the dialogues, and really the kind of skills you need to actually be successful? Because most agents today, they get into real estate, they don't realize like real estate is a sales sport, which means you have to talk to a lot of people. But on top
Mhm.
of that, you have to learn what to say because if you know what to say, obviously it makes it a lot easier to go out and do it. So, I mean, how long did it take for you to actually get a feel of what the scripts and dialogues looked like and more importantly, felt like?
For me, it took at least 8 years.
Wow.
I think it took me longer than maybe what others can be. It just took me longer because I had to change my entire vernacular, right? Because I had my Frank Del Rio at that time in my 20s of who I had created. But that was just a person. And then I had to turn into Frank Del Rio, the real estate professional. That took time. I didn't realize I was doing that. But looking back, I can say it took me about 8 years. I was around that 8 year marker. I'm 27, 20, and then now I'm just like, I get this. I know what to say. I know how to say it. I know who I'm going after. And that was really helpful to have that kind of concrete confidence. Like, this is where I'm going. I know. And
Yeah,
that's
because one
changed
thing
over the
I would
years,
tell
right?
people is like, when you want to be successful, you have to create a different avatar than the
Yes.
person you were previously. So, what are like two or three or four things that you had to change from Frank Del Rio, previous realtor, and Frank Del Rio now in real estate? What are some things that you had to create in yourself to have the kind of success that you have?
So for me personally, it changed because I became a husband and I became a father. So that whole Frank Del Rio, I wanted to be I don't know how this sounds, but I wanted to be a great husband and a great
Yeah.
father and a good realtor, right? Because in our industry, I watched and saw all these amazing realtors that were phenomenal at what they do, but they would tear their family lives apart, right? So
Absolutely.
I purposefully wanted to change into someone a little bit different, but still produce at a high level and still have an amazing life and that sort of thing. So I started to pick apart the things that I wanted and then would move forward with that. Now I did two specific things. One was I looked at, okay, I don't want to sell. I'm not, I don't want to. I didn't like selling 60, 70 homes and what that came with because of my price point. So I moved geographies to a much higher price point where I can sell 30 to 50 homes and still live an incredible life because the price point went up. That took a little bit longer than I anticipated to figure that part out. At the same time, still be successful, but then also have to shift a little bit of the tactics and the different things I did to generate business. And then on top of that, still be attentive to my children's functions and school things and be home for dinner and, take my wife out and be a family man. All that kind of took its own life of its own and little pieces that I didn't appreciate well, I'll give you an example. I wanted to make sure for my kids, I was at all of their school functions, right?
Mhm.
We're not the traditional family where we're home by 5 o'clock with dinner, but I would definitely make sure that I'm at home with them to talk life into them and to enjoy them and to speak about their days and that sort of thing. Everyone that's 7, 8, 9. And then my wife was kind enough to know I'll do that time, and then I'll go jump on the phones and do some follow up calls in the evening afterwards, right? So just kind of being a little flexible in that regards. And then for the higher end market, that took a completely different change because I had to become more worldly, right? When you go from selling four or five, I mean, back in the days, I was selling 200 and $150,000 homes. And as the price increased, not because of the economy, but because I moved geographies, I started to learn I needed to become more worldly in terms of what that demographic looks at, experiences, vacations, and shopping, and all that good stuff. And so that took on its own life of me to turn into that person as well. And it wasn't the hard, cold, hard nosed selling that I was used to with my scripts and my dialogues and hitting and doing all the closes. This was a little bit more of a relationship building on top of
Absolutely.
that, still knowing what to say, how to say it in a way that isn't pushing aggressive, but it just kind of comes together like a nice dance of building a relationship and knowing what to say and how to say it. And so I've done that very well now, right? I try to tell people like now I can go into a home and I feel like Neo in the Matrix where he's looking at everything and I can spit out values for properties for people like that. And they're just like, how did you do that? And like, we're not looking on a computer for that kind of stuff, but that's how much I've been dived into to this marketplace now. Because when you're selling luxuries in my market, luxury homes, these aren't planned unit developments. These are all custom, unique properties. So you can't really get comps the other way. And I hope I'm not jumping ahead, but this all had to change me as a person and a real estate professional so that I can compete and produce in the market that we're in now.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many agents that I know that have been able to do what you do in terms of creating a family life. I think, with me getting into real estate, that was my one fear is I watched all of my heroes, all the people I looked up to, they're
Totally.
making all this money, they're super successful, and then
Hmm.
they're getting divorced and their wives hate them and their kids don't know them. And to
Yeah.
me, I like LinkedIn early on in my career that for me, that would not be success. If my kids don't know me and my wife hates me, like that's not what I want. So, you're one of the few people I know that have been able to like figure that out because
Mm.
so many people don't understand is like part of being a successful agent is you have to learn to get your spouse on board. So how are you able to get her on board so that she understood that look, I'm going to be away from home, but like this is what we get? Because so many
Yeah.
people don't get the component that if your spouse or partner doesn't know what's in it for them, the more you're away, at some point you're going to have to choose between them and what you want. And what were
Yeah.
you able to do to kind of get past that part? Because I think a lot of agents out there, it's the one part they struggle with is how do
Yeah.
we grow a business and grow a relationship at the same time?
Absolutely, man. And I think that's something we don't really hear about too much from the different channels of coaching and real estate, right? Like, I know you and I both, one of our biggest mentors where we met, he's an amazing businessman, but when you go through like 6, 7 wives,
Right.
I don't know. I don't want
Yeah.
to learn from that, right? You know what I'm saying? So kind of have to develop your own style. But for what I did with my wife was a lot of conversation and communication, but deep, thoughtful conversation. One that came with a lot of patience on my end, and also a lot of understanding and forgiveness when my wife wasn't on board with me, wasn't on board with what we had agreed and talked about. You know what I mean? She
Right.
didn't shoot. Like it's like we chose this life and we bring our family into it, but it's I
Right.
believe, my belief is it's our job as the patriarchs of our family to help them with our vision, right? And
Absolutely.
help them buy into our vision that is beneficial to them. It's not one sided, And so it was a lot of conversations of like, what do you want to do? What do you want with our life? What do you want to do together? What do you want to experience? And then there's a lot of me because I want the bigger things. You got to kind of know your spouse, right? My wife is very chill, very frugal, which is amazing because it helps me tremendously. I'm not frugal at some certain times. I've gotten
Right.
better at that, but at the same time, you know, having her on board and then more importantly, exposure, taking
Mhm.
her to the events, letting her meet
Absolutely.
great friends like you guys and Beth and our other friends that we have of families. But it was also my job to find those people and say, oh yeah, we got to hang out more. We got to get together for a dinner. Even if it meant flying out to another state where someone's at, and
Yeah.
introducing ourselves and just kind of having a conversation and seeing kind of where it goes. What are your goals? What are your aspirations? Right? We used to talk to a lot of older generation because I'm a big believer in like the older generation of married couples always sprinkle wisdom down to you if you're
Yeah.
open to listening to it. Right. So we kind of had to get out of our circle, if you will. And that really is, and we're not perfect by any means. We have,
I don't know.
fights and ups and downs, just like any good married couple, right? But again, I'm a big believer. Like that's where we build our strength. That's where we build character, right? It's like diamonds. They're not forged in cold water. They're forged in some tremendous heat of fire, and it's that beautiful diamond that comes out from all that pressure and heat. And I kind of have that mentality with our relationship, but also having the understanding to know that my it may take the other spouse a little bit longer to get. So you got to be patient with them, and you got to just continue on in a very nice manner. And sometimes it's natural for someone to want to be pushing forward so fast, and the other one's back here. But my job is to grab that person. Come on, we're doing this together. That's what we signed up for. You
Yeah.
know.
It's just so funny that I mean, so many people forget and so many agents struggle with the fact that this is our dream. Like they don't see what what we see. They don't feel what we feel. Like it's not their dream. It's our dream. And so like a lot of people get in bad relationships because their spouse doesn't support them the way they want. And the truth is that for most people, when you go from another job into real estate, most of your family, your friends, they're not going to support you the way you want because again, they're not seeing and feeling what you see. They don't see the opportunity. So
Sure.
sometimes you have to be able to do that in spite of that. It's so funny because I've always been the kind of person that gets up at 5 and I work out. And, for most of my relationship with my wife, she has supported me with everything that I want. And then last year, she decided to get into pickleball. And now she wants to get up at 5 o'clock and play pickleball. And now she wants me to like watch the kids. Now she wants to go away on the weekend. And it was like weird for a second because I'm like, wait a second, like she's inconveniencing my life. And I had to like watch myself because like, you know what I mean? It's like I've always told her, like I teach my kids, like how you do anything is how you do everything. So she
Mhm.
found something that she loves. And it's like, who am I to not support something that she loves and wants to do? So like I got a feeling in the last year of in the way of supporting her that how she's probably felt the last 20 years of
Totally.
supporting me, because I
Yeah.
think part of a growing relationship is being able to support one another in like the things that we want.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And I think more agents, both male and female, need to hear that more because sometimes we can get so wrapped up in our success that our spouse, will go and think they're not as strong as us or belittle them or whatever. And that's that. You got to be careful with that, because
But
they're along for the ride with you.
we were at a relationship conference and they were showing, the men and women. And I was shocked to see how many women that stayed at home felt less than their
Right.
spouse.
Yeah,
I've always felt like I go to work, but I have the easier job. I mean, being home with kids is like 100 times harder than
totally.
anything that I will really do during the day. So I've always overvalued. I like looked at that and been like you got the hard part. But a
Yeah,
lot of women or men that stay at home, they look at themselves as being less than when the truth is that they're much more than. You know what I mean?
totally. Totally. Absolutely.
So let me ask you: in going from a lower price point to a higher price point, mentally, what does that look like? Because I know when I coach and talk to a lot of people and say, look, we need to up the price range, their
Mhm.
eyes just kind of open because, they feel like if they don't own a $3 million house,
Yeah.
how am I going to go up and talk to someone and sell their house if I'm in a townhouse? So, like,
Yeah.
how are you able to bring your mind from two, three, 400,000 to the 2, 3, $4 million houses that you sell now? Because not many people are able to go from there to there in the
Hmm.
period of time that you were able to do that. So how were you able to shift your mind to sell people at that price point?
I was a couple of reasons or a couple of factors. I believe, one of them was that the act as if, that was a big one. And especially because when I started it, I wasn't in that kind of neighborhood. I mean, I had bought a $400,000 home and where we lived at the time. And, I'm over here selling at that time $1 million homes. Um, but it just took repetition over time going out to these areas and experiencing the lifestyle. This is before like Instagram and all that kind of
I
gave
know.
you access to it. So when you were out there, you were really by yourself. Like you look like a fish out of water. People could see you coming a mile away. So, but getting yourself in that uncomfortable position, let's go back to rejection, right? I got a thick armor, a thick skin. So I was cool with it. There's plenty of times I would be knocking on people's homes and they're like, what the hell are you doing knocking on my door? And I'm like, well, I'm a real estate. No, no, no. I don't think you understand the question, boy. Why are you even in my neighborhood? And I was like, you used to, you think I should have a lawnmower? Is that what? Oh, okay. No, no, no. I sell these. I don't work out there, right? So I would have fun with it to that regard
Oh my
because
God, it's too
and
funny.
that happens in certain geographic areas. There's a certain level of, comes with the territory. It's nothing to shy away from. But that was one, the acting as if. And then the second thing that I did was I previewed a lot of property. Now, this is prior to COVID. So remember
Right.
back when we'd have to preview properties daily? I just made it
Yeah.
a point to go and preview the most expensive listings so I could get comfortable in that setting. I would go to the brokers' opens and the caravans, meet the agents, find out who's actually selling these, ask them questions, because a lot of those realtors they like the fact that you you boost their ego, and so they're going to talk to you a lot, and they're going to tell you about the home and how they got it and this and that. And then the third thing that I did was a lot of people weren't doing this yet, but I used to ask a lot of these top agents who had luxury listings if I could hold their listings open. And I would hold their listings open, and then I would go door knock the neighborhoods, and I would just tell people, I'm holding this property open. Would love for you to stop by. Maybe you get to pick your next neighbor. I didn't say, when do you plan on moving? How long have you lived at this address? I just invited because I wanted to get them to the house so that then I can get a conversation going with them. And then I started building my list from that perspective. And that took about 6 years until I actually went up and bought my own million plus home in a very desirable neighborhood. But that was like the culmination of all of it. And then what I did notice is nobody knocks on $1 million property. So, and the funny part, Mike, right? Because you know me, I'm 6'4", I'm 300 pounds, I'm a big man. I can see into most people's houses. Not when it's a million, 2, 3 million, man. They got 20-foot doors, so I look
Right.
small. So through default, it worked to my advantage because I didn't look like the big guy that I am at some of these other homes. So, and people were really shocked to see me actually out working, knocking on doors. And yeah, you come across a couple racist people. They're like, you should be mowing my lawns, not selling my houses type shit. But that comes with the territory.
All your lawn is 3.5%
Yes, exactly.
of
But it
expensive.
was a lot of time. Yeah, a lot of time having fun and going through those experiences. And I think everyone in our country, because I'm not just talking about California, everyone has a certain geographical area that is much higher, much more valuable, bigger houses. And if you get out of your own way and you go visit them, you could get inspired. But then on top of that, I wanted to know, what do these people want to know about? Real estate values, and marketing. You come to find out in the luxury end, they don't give a shit about comps. So you got to be creative, but you also have to be very informative so that you're not just throwing numbers out there to sound good. You got to know your craft. You got to know your product. And so that's what I started learning by previewing, knowing which homes were selling for more, which ones weren't, despite the area, that sort of thing. And you bring that kind of knowledge to people, and you're not just sitting up looking at comparables. You're speaking from true experience of walking through, feeling and seeing the home, seeing what upgrades people are using, because the upgrades are completely different and amenities in the luxury space than they are in the non-luxury space. You have to know that stuff, those products and that sort of thing too.
That is so cool. So let me ask you something. If you were to go back to the first day, Frank Del Rio in real estate, what would be three things that you would tell him based on what you know now that would help him move forward? Because there's so many new agents getting into the
Yeah.
business. And so you've got almost 25 years of experience. What would be three things that you would go back and tell yourself day one?
Day one, I would say go find the top producing listing agent at whatever company you're at and go tell them that you'll work for them for free for 6 months and be a sponge. The trade off is, instead of money, you're going to ask them to show you their knowledge of how they list and sell many homes. That's the first 6 months. That's what I would tell myself. And go do that. I took too long to do that because of my insecurity and my youth and my inexperience and my ignorance. So if I would have done that sooner, I would have been much more ahead. The second
Absolutely.
thing is, I would say go move or go work the market that you want to eventually live at. I took too long to do that. My 20 something career, 20 something years career, it wasn't until like year 13 I actually went to the neighborhood I wanted to live in. So go
Right.
move to find the geographic area you want to move to, and then start at that market. And then number three, work on yourself sooner than later. Go find out what makes you tick, what excites you, what really gets you going. But then also find out what can set you back and stop you, so you can learn to move fast at. Because the one thing that I've learned the most about real estate, it is really 90% up here,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
10% is the rest, right? So if you can work on your mindset a little bit earlier than just the tactical stuff of how to list and sell properties or how to use buyer's agents and how to this and that, you'll be much, much stronger for it. So I hope those three made sense.
I know, perfect. It's so funny because some people look at the end product at 25 years and they just think it's, and unfortunately, it's up, down, left,
Yeah,
right.
it is.
It's
And
kind of,
look, and it's crazy. I was going up for like 13 years. These last 2 years, my first time coming down really hard because of medical stuff, surgeries, right? Life, all that shit as I'm getting older. But this has been a cool 8 months. I've literally taken my own advice now, and I'm doing what I would tell someone younger. And I started this back in October, and the success is just, we're on a nice uptick again from doing that. So it really kind of I had to remind myself who I was in certain ways, right? Because you start selling homes, you get a little comfy. You start selling these big, you know, you get a $60,000 check on one rip. You're like, I could sit pretty for a minute. That over these last 8 months has been instrumental, going back to those tactics and actually doing them and seeing the rest of my marketplace really kind of fall off because of just everything we're experiencing. Low inventory, high rates, recession for the economy. It's all these other factors that everybody's paying attention to. I'm just strutting, moving my stuff, going forward, getting better, improving myself, trying to get better, trying to grow the business, trying to get better at online, video, all that stuff, all the other pillars that I keep adding to my business. And that's a one. So 4 points. The fourth one is it takes time, more time than you expect. But the great part is we're in such a cool business that the time can be your friend if you pay attention to it and continue to strive and get better.
So funny. I was at a conference speaking a couple months ago, and someone had asked me, "What's the one thing you would go back and tell the baby Mike that started day one?" And I was thinking, in my life, I would always, always overestimate what I thought I could do in like a month, in a
Mm-hmm.
year, and I would drastically, drastically, drastically underestimate what I would be able to achieve in a decade, and now 2.5 decades. I mean, when I look at where I'm at now compared to where I start, I mean, I never would have thought through compounding that I would be able to get to where I'm at now. And I think so many people, they live for the moment, not realizing that in life you need to give up your wants right now for what you really want in the future, because so many people never have the things that they want in life because they do what they want in the moment. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And part
right.
of being successful is that you have to do things every single day that you don't want to do. That's why every single morning I get in 44-degree water,
Yeah.
because if I get myself to do something early on in the morning, and tell Frank, how bad is it to get in cold water fresh out of a hot, warm bed?
It's difficult, right? Like I just got my cold plunge. And in the fall, I was jumping in the pool. Pool's down about 51, 52. I could barely get this thing down to 58. It is cold as hell. Getting my body back in that chaotic state, I agree with you. It helps the rest of the day as a breeze. So I think if people can figure out how to do that for themselves in our industry, they would definitely push themselves forward. But that's where we go back to, like, knowing who you are, what makes you tick, what makes you get going. That's a super important thing. And then also surrounding yourself with your hub. And the cool thing about today, Mike, and I'm sure you agree to this and can attest to this, back in the days, you had to physically be there with someone to
I
gain
know.
from there. But with this stuff, it's like I'm in California, you're in Virginia, here we are Saturday morning doing a convo, learning a lot from each other, and then everyone else was going to benefit from this. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
It's Yeah, I think one of the things that I think me and you learned early in our career as we started our mastermind group, the Alpha Dogs,
Hmm.
was the power of peer group. I mean, how has your career in your life been shaped by the people that you surround yourself with? Because so many people realize, as I said, Tony Robbins always says, love your family, but choose your peer group. The peer group is your chosen people that are
Totally.
going to objectively look at you and are going to push you to what you want, not what they think they want, but what you
Hmm.
want. My peer
Right.
group has always held me accountable to what I say I want to do. So for you, how powerful and important was surrounding yourself with like kind people along your journey? Because so many people never get into a position where they surround themselves with people that are like minded, that are going to force them. Because when you tell your friends that you had a shitty month and you only made 40 or $50,000, and that's what they make in a year, they're
Yeah,
not going to have a lot of sympathy for you. So how
not
important
at
was
all.
that along your journey?
It was huge. And the cool part is 25 years, it's been different groups, right?
Mhm.
Because you're a different person at each stage of your life. But it's been one that is like it's almost like the glue to everything that you want to do. Because with these groups, if you search them out and just like anything else in life, it takes time. It's not the first group you're with. I mean, I've been probably in over 20 plus groups,
Yeah.
right? I think ours has been the longest and consistent, but ours also was towards the tail end because I started to recognize who I was as an individual and who I wanted to surround myself with. Because early in the stage, I was with all the hitters, all the young guns, all of this, but we had different ideas, and not everyone's values were the same. There was a lot of
Yeah.
crisscrossing, but
Yeah.
the real estate part is what brought us together. Then you go out with people, and you're like, "That's how you roll." I gotta be a little careful, man. You know? And then of
No,
course, then
no
I mean,
filming tonight.
yes, exactly, exactly. And then you become a husband, you become a family man, and you're like, okay, I can't be with that group anymore because they got different ideas now. And that's part of life, though, right? If you're conscientious about it, but it's the glue because it's not just for business; it's for everything. Everyone in our groups has a different quality they bring. And there was for a minute I was a little insecure because I didn't have the numbers volume, but then I started recognizing the value I did bring, right? And that's why I
Absolutely.
think people get lost. They think I can't be in a mastermind group or surround myself with those people. I'm not like them. And you say, yeah, no shit. You don't want to be like them. You want to be completely different because they're going to pull you up in certain areas, and then you're going
Mhm.
to pull them up in certain areas, and it's a symbiotic relationship you guys all have together in a true setting. There are some mastermind groups that can get a little weird, and you got some tyrannical people who's like, you can only do this, and you can only, it's like, yeah, dude, whatever. If you get out there and you find the right people, and the cool thing today is the mastermind groups are a multi blend of everyone. You've got women's groups that are mastermind groups. You've got married couples ones. You've got certain ethnic ones, whatever. And that's what's cool because you could be a part of a lot of them, and then you just have your one core group that I believe is going to push you further. Right? Like I love our group because it started out as just individuals, and then we introduced all our families because we all were very like-minded, and then our kids get to meet with each other, and then now like you're helping some of our other friends' kids who are older, and that's I think that's a beautiful thing, man, because our industry, as much notoriety as it gets for the glitz and the glam, there's a lot of darkness and crazy shit that happens, and so when you don't have a group around you that can help you out of those dark times, it's tough. And so I feel very blessed for our group because we've all had our dark moments in a way that you just go through mentally. I mean, it's nice to go reach out to someone and say, hey, man, I'm going through this. What? No shit. I did too, man. Here's how I got out of it. Right. Or here's what you should try this. All right, cool. I didn't think about that. Thanks for putting that on me. I think that's
Don't forget, I mean, without dark moments, we wouldn't appreciate light moments. Without
totally.
bad coming into our life, we would
Yeah.
never appreciate good people. If we didn't have bad times, we would never truly appreciate good
No.
times. So many people forget the lessons that they're learning
Yeah.
in all these different seasons of life. But I mean, it was so cool to literally train Jason's son as he comes
Right.
down, he's 20, and it's like you literally are training the next generation. And the way he's talking and sounding, it's like
Yes.
Jason, but he's got hair. And it was just like, my God, it
Hmm.
was
I know, right? Isn't that
the
nuts?
coolest experience to literally watch this kid hungry, determined, and
Yeah. Well, what I
to
like
me,
about it
it
too
was
is like
really about.
children now have multiple father mentors, multiple mother mentor, right? Like that's such a cool thing when you really break that down. And the other big component of the groups and surrounding yourself that not a lot of really people talk about because everybody wants to show how good they're doing, but like vulnerability, there's so much power in vulnerability and being vulnerable with your group and your peers and saying, I'm in a tough spot right now. How the hell do I get out of this? Or I've tried everything. How do I get out of this? And it's so important because I get strength and vulnerability for myself. But
Absolutely.
I always like to remind people of that mastermind group just to show off, getting it to help people, but then also let people know, hey man, I'm not doing too well. Here's what happened. How can you guys help me get out of this? Or what am I not looking at? What am I not seeing? And then you get all these perspectives and it's like, that's the one. Thank you, brother. And I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the group has helped me so much because it's given me a place that, like, when my times aren't good and I
Hmm.
don't know how to handle situations, or, people think of us at the end, but they don't realize as you come up, no matter how good you are, there's moments where you just feel weak.
Yeah,
And having brothers that you can call upon and say,
totally.
look, help me, and
Right.
having people to lift you up and they kind of dust your shoulders off and then they throw you back out there,
Get
it's
your ass
just
back out and get to
get
work.
your ass
You know?
back out, you know what I
And
mean?
it's that old adage, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what happens to you because everyone's going to have some kind of circumstantial experience, but it's how you handle what happens, right? And then sometimes our minds and our hearts and our bodies are only designed to handle things one way. So these mastermind groups are surrounding yourself with the right people, give you multiple perspective now to pull from, but then also give you other people that you respect and trust, give you their beliefs. And so it's like, well, hey, that I never had that belief before. I never even thought about it that way. That makes sense. Let me go and let me try that. And so that's why I think people forget about that part about the mastermind group. They think it's all about just how can I sell more homes? How can I grow my business? But it's really like all of that, plus how can you grow as a person? How can you be more as a person? How can you give back as a person, right? Because all of us have different attributes that we're learning from. So I think it's powerful. More and more people need to get involved with that versus following these, social media people, influencers who are just really giving out information for likes and money and that stuff. Not true with the intention of, trying to help you. So be very mindful of that.
Absolutely. I think so many people don't realize that you can go far by yourself, but when you have a good peer group with other people, you not only get farther, but you get there faster because those
Yeah,
people are going to pull you on the days that you don't want to be pulled.
for
Because
sure.
face it, there's some days that you wake up and you just do not want to do it. And when you have people that are willing to hold you accountable to what you do, it's powerful. I mean, for so
Huge.
many years, we would be texting our numbers of what we were going to do, and
Hmm.
text them at the end. And I just thought that was so cool. So, I mean, as we wrap up, you've been
Yeah.
doing it 25 years. What is the next 5, 10, 25 years? What does that look like for Frank Del Rio? Have you ever thought kind of past what you want to do beyond real estate?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about that more. I'm 44 now, and these next few years, first off, I love listing and selling real estate. I truly enjoy that. Like that is my craft. Now that I've gotten really great at it, there's a piece of me now that wants to share and teach others how to do it. I never had that in me before. I was always very selfish with that, or thought maybe I didn't maybe I didn't have a big enough business to be that person, right? So moving forward, I do want to start helping others, and whether that be through like EXP, which is what I'm under now, and that's why I joined that company to help other agents grow and build their business at the same time, right? Build my own, and then definitely start developing a little bit more of the investment side. I've helped so many of my clients get rich that I've never really looked into it more myself because I just enjoy that part of the business, and just continue on with my team. If I can have a good solid buyer's agent and my 3 administrative staff, I could still sell 50 plus units, have a pretty incredible life. I don't need 5 agents under me. I can do really well because of my price point and do what I need to do. But I think the business part on the agent attraction side and helping others succeed now is kind of a new venture that I'm excited and nervous about too, because I've never done it. So that's kind of what I foresee myself in the next 5, 7 years.
It's so funny that I feel like the first half of our life we learn and obtain a skill, and then the
Hmm.
second half of our life, I think we need to find a way to really give that out to other people. Because
Yeah.
you've got 25 years of experience, and there's so many people out there that could benefit from the things that you know. Because you've already made all of the mistakes for literally a quarter of a century. You know
Yeah.
what works and you know what doesn't work. So if anybody wanted to contact you or ask you questions, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So they can, fastest ways through social media, Instagram, they can follow me on FDR Homes, and then look me up on YouTube under Frank Del Rio, or just call me, text me, 714-335-0844. There you go.
Great. Well, as always, Frank, it's so good to talk to you and look forward to hopefully seeing you on future episodes.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. Always great helping out and being in a conversation with you, Mike. Take care, brother.
You too. Bye bye.